Is introduce everyone that's on the panel. Obviously, this is the breaking in panel, so this isn't Ask Me Anything. Panel is going to be a lot, very, very free form, and I think you'll find that there's no one way, as most of y'all can imagine, there's no one right way into the industry. Everyone has their own business formation back in 2005.
Alan Wilson, Vice President of Tripwire Interactive, since 2005 as well.
James Simpson, Dr. Unity, owner of Cellbloc Studios. I'm a senior software engineer.
Brandon Bray, I'm an audio designer at Volition, and I've been there for about 3 years.
Chris Rickwood, I'm a freelance composer. I've been doing it since 1980. That's right.
I'm Matt, and I am a senior artist at Hi-Rez Studios. I've been there since 2010. That's fine, I'll speak loud. Does it project? Can you hear me back there?
Yes.
Yeah. Alright, we're good.
I feel like I'm making up a recording.
Good.
What? Okay, so obviously, we could probably talk for hours and hours about all the things that go into getting into the industry and all the various disciplines. Obviously, you have a very diverse set of skills to be in the industry. Everything from marketing to game design, artistry, technical. And I think we have a pretty good representation of most of those disciplines up here. So let's just open it up, and unless anyone has anything that they want to add, we can open up the floor and ask us anything. Now, it doesn't mean we'll answer anything, but hopefully we'll answer everything. Back in the back.
Single best piece of advice you have directed towards all of you.
Damn.
There you go, starting off with
What's up, I'll take this question. All right, you're first to do.
I'd say work hard. Work as hard as you can. When your friends want you to go out, or you're tired, or you want to watch TV, or go to the movie, or whatever, just work. Keep building your portfolio. It's really the best advice I have.
Yeah, you know, kind of building on that, whatever your craft is, don't stop practicing. You know, if you're lucky enough to find an entry-level job that requires experience, as most do, that experience is your portfolio of what you've done at home. That is, there's so much available for you to download online. Speaking from an audio perspective, things like Wise and F-Wise, where it's free to download and you can learn how to use the tools. Buy a microphone and record stuff all the time. Build your portfolio, build your library, and just continue to practice your craft.
I'm going to jump in and say, kind of before all that, what I would recommend doing is something that I learned in school, which was find out what you're not good at. And that sounds a little weird, but you know, game development has so many facets to it. There really is something for almost every discipline. And the fact of the matter is that game companies typically, yes, you want somebody who can adapt to a lot of situations, but you also want somebody who can be an expert in their craft. And figuring out what your craft is the first real step. And some of you might know, like some of you might be artists, and you have a gift of artistry, but you need to go a little bit deeper and figure out what is it exactly that I'm really good at. And you don't know that until you start trying things. And don't be afraid to try something, and if you don't like it, go the other way. And then push yourself to try to understand coding if you're an artist. And you might actually find yourself as a technical artist. You might not understand the really hardcore parts of it, but it might open up doors that you didn't think you were capable of doing. So I think that's kind of the precursor to everything, is once you find what you're really good at, yes, do that a lot, obviously, but you need to really find out what you're not good at, I think.
And another thing, like I've been programming since 1984, so it has been a passion of mine. Every day I am coding something. I mean, I can't stop. And my wife yells at me all the time, why don't you come to bed? I said, no, I'm going to try this one other function. I want to try this other way to do a blocking web request and everything. And it drives me mad, but it is a, have you heard that before?
No, I've never heard that.
Actually,
I've never answered, no, I'm gonna stay over here if my wife says come.
there's a funny comic with that when I saw that where, you have a guy that's just kind of like this, every piece of the comic strip is kind of like this, and the wife is just asking all these questions, like, what did I do? Did I not do this right? Did I not do that right? And then, just asking all these questions and wondering what's wrong. And then at the end of the comic strip, you see what he's thinking is, why didn't that code compile?
Yeah, so, with that, I try to, it's like I said, it's a passion of mine. And I also try to venture out a little bit, so I make sure I learn a little bit about art. So I got into Photoshop, started doing artwork with 2D art, and I can do modeling, hard surface modeling. But I'm not a true artist. I realize that, but at least I can talk to the artist. Hey, this is what I'm looking for. This is how I need to save the space. And so I know, I don't want to say jack of all trades, but at least I poke my heads into different things, because one of the biggest problems with working with artists, they're very lazy and they're very unorganized. Any of this sound familiar? Okay, and their naming schemes are extremely horrible. But once you get over that, they're very good to work with, and they can create some amazing stuff, and it makes me feel like I want to be able to use their stuff, and I want to be able to do their stuff, but realize I'm a programmer, and I'm okay with that.
One of the obvious answers to your question is that there is no single best thing.
You come back out.
Don't go I must do this one thing. You've got to do a shit thing. If you're looking for instant answers, the one it's kind of been alluded to, which is go above and beyond. Someone remind me, how many students are in the Atlanta area alone doing game-related coding? Is it 2,000 something like that? 3,000 people.
Too many is what.
Yeah, I was trying not to put it like that, and most of them, frankly, are complete waste of space.
Yes.
2,500 probably. They're doing it because their parents told them to go to degree, so they thought something they could do. For the rest of them, it's that point about, you're going to do your course, you do it well. You're going to do all your coursework, do it well. You're going to do all your project work, do it well. But that is not enough. Go off and, as you say, find the things you're good at, find the things you're not good at. Please find the things you're not good at. Don't let us find that. Do stuff you don't have to do. That'll make you, to make you stand out. I put it very bluntly. But so he's that thing. But yeah, really kind of tired of just seeing resumes and CVs and stuff of people who just gone, I did my coursework, I want a job. So what? Go away. Come and show us something you've done. Something that you didn't have to do. Something that you went and did. That makes you stand out.
Going to school and getting a degree, diploma, certificate, whatever the result may be of what you're following, does not entitle you to a job.
Yeah, so quit school.
And what I'm saying is, Chris, what I'm saying is, along those lines, you go above and beyond, do the extra work, do more than you think you should. Set expectations and goals for yourself higher than everybody else. You need to make sure that you stand out amongst the crowd.
The other thing I want to add to that too, this is more towards the artists, is that realize that when you become an artist, and I was a technical artist before, and I have a master's in fine arts, but I am not an artist, I would say. But when you become an artist, I think that you have a natural talent, and you like to try new things, you like to draw things, you kind of push the artistic boundaries, and artists are always are these kind of free thinkers, they think outside the box, and you're encouraged to do that during school. And that's very important to learn that kind of thing. But what's really important too is to understand that when you work for a studio, when you work for somebody else who has their money on the line and deadlines, that you're not a fine artist for that job. Like, you might be a fine artist, you might be able to make fine art, but you're not making fine art. You're an engineer. You're just like the programmers, where you have to make, you are a software engineer, and you have to make your time essentially to fulfill requirements that will be reviewed and will like be critically reviewed just as a game's design or code would be. And that to me, I see that even in the professional world, I kind of see that on all sides. Even from a game design perspective, you have this too, where you kind of have this feeling that, oh, I'm an artist, and I'm thinking that I need to think outside the box. Whereas, to me at least, I think a game artist, a successful game artist, can make the most out of the box rather than thinking outside of it.
Well, one of the other things is I'm an instructor at Artist of Atlanta, which is kind of funny because a lot of you guys are my students. So I'm like, there's I go through maybe 90 students every 10 weeks. And I'm like, I don't know what I can do if I got to beat some sense into you guys. It's like, look, you know, you have to do A quality work. A lot of people, they will work in a group and they will do just what they're told. I'm like, please stop that, okay? You know, because I own a company, I'm not going to hire you. You know, we may pass you. Anyway, we may pass you because we have to meet certain quotas and everything, but at the same time, I know I'm not going to hire you. So when I'm yelling at you guys, I'm listening, I'm talking specifically to certain people, you need to do certain work. Go above and beyond. Don't just do what you're told. I want to see better quality work from you guys. And I know a lot of you guys have it in you. So.
You know, one piece of advice that always stuck with me that my trumpet teacher would give me was to practice the things you don't know. This is kind of what they were saying. Like, don't spend all this time like refining the stuff you can do, but you have to expand what you're doing. I'm going to put everybody's mind at ease and give you a little secret here. Every job I've ever taken, I had no idea what I was doing. And I've worked for all these dudes. I just signed a deal with this guy, but I can't talk about it. But every job like I've taken with him, I told them like, yeah, I can handle doing this, and this. And then I figured it out. I'm like totally, they didn't know. Like they thought I was a pro, but I
Fake it till you make it.
So yeah, so my advice is like, everybody's at the same level. Nobody really knows how to do this. It's such a new industry that you're kind of making your own rules, and you need to get out there and not necessarily just take our advice, but like do your own thing, make your own game, make your own rules. You know, figure out what's new and what's exciting, and see how you can contribute to society rather than what can we do for you.
So that was question number one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You asked for one thing, and that's how long it took. So let's get at some more
Easier questions.
In the back.
Yeah, my name is Callum Malone. I'm at the Art Institute of Decatur, studying game art design in my second year.
I'll see you in a year then.
Excellent. So what do you look for when you're viewing a portfolio?
What kind of portfolio? Art?
Game art and design.
Please tell me you're not a hard surface modeler.
No.
Thank God. Okay. Yeah, everyone can be. My 2-year-old can do hard surface modeling. Okay, it's not that difficult. Organic, completely different.
Whoa. Good hard surface modeling. Weapon modeling.
Okay, hang on, but is it designed first? A lot of them won't use a reference. Yes. That's 95% of the problem. I say, let me see your reference image. I don't have one. Essentially, they just took cubes and stretched them and pulled them and said, okay, that's an Uzi. No, that's not. That's a gasoline can. Good try.
All right, so he's not a hard surface modeler. So
Yeah, I look for, I kind of cheat. Do you look for lighting? Do you understand shading? Do you understand how the facets work? So when it's inside of a game engine, how is it going to look and be presented? I look for small amount of geometry. Okay, so you can, the minimum polygons as possible. And are you doing animation with it?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to check your rigging, your binding, see how you're working with that. If it's using secondary animation or tertiary animation, making it look alive. That's what I look for in a portfolio.
Just to pick up on that, show us the workings. We get 10, 20 artist portfolios a day, and most of them are shite. Show us, if you've got something that's really cool, you've done the work, show us what you've done. Show us each part of the model, how you work through it. Because we want to see, if we can see the finished product that's really good and really stands out, and we see that you understand the process, that you understand the pipeline, that you've thought about, this is, and if you're just doing, I'm doing this rated high poly model of whatever, of an Uzi, for example, and that's fine, but tell us that's what you're doing. And if you then want to say, and this is how it would be in game, and I've done, what I've done is take a high poly model and take down to a low poly model and done this and done this, show us the steps, show us that you understand what it takes. Not just to make, because, to your insulting points, any idiot can make, a really high poly model of whatever. If it's give a Brazilian monkeys a bucket of beer and they'll write Shakespeare for you. It's that point that show us how you got there. Show us that you understand why. What have you done? Why have you done it? So that makes a difference. In general, the portfolio, just to really shoot that particular idea down in front, the flip side of that is, I don't want to see everything you've ever done. We get these sort of portfolios where it's sort of, here it is, there's 407 images in there. I'm sure there's a good one in there somewhere. No, I mean, the obvious point, show us what you think is best. Show us the things that you think stand out. And it doesn't hurt to tell us why.
And that's kind of the most classic answer to that is obviously you don't show everything and show your best work. But I think Alan was picking up on a really good point. Whenever I'm considering looking at somebody and I'm considering them, no matter what the position is for, the most important thing for me at least is can I communicate with this person, and will they work well with a team? And that to me, that is most of the battle, because if you can communicate with somebody, then you can work creatively with them. And so on your portfolio, if you do show that the steps like what Alan's talking about, that proves that you know what you're talking about, and then we can communicate with you. We can talk to you about rigging techniques and animation ideas and edge loops, and the pipeline is just so important when you're working in the creative environment.
Are there any audio guys here? Any besides Jack? Besides the Rakani, there's no audio people? You don't care about please, yeah. Do you care what we have to say about
microphone? Do I care what you have to say about it?
Yeah, you got your stuff together there, right? I mean, you want us to answer that question?
Does anybody care what I would look for in an audio portfolio?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
People just
Okay.
have a minute to look at something, and they want to know.
Actually, that's a good point. That's a good point. Kind of, don't show me everything, show me your best work. That's kind of what I look at. I look at CVs and what's the other word for a CV?
Resume.
No, I'm sorry. It's a cover letter. Cover letter. Really? Yeah, I look at cover letters and I look at portfolios. Write a cover letter. Cover letter. I honestly don't look at resumes. Personally, I want to see your work. I don't want to see where you've worked. I want to see your work. I don't want to see what you've worked on as far as projects go. I don't care that you worked on the last Call of Duty, especially Call of Duty. But I want to see your best work in the minimum amount of time as possible.
Yes.
Typically a sound design test will be like a 1.5 minute video where it's gain capture and you remove the audio and score it yourself. At Volition, actually, what we've done in a recent job hiring is we actually have a story, and it's a paragraph to 2 paragraphs of a story, and you have to tell that story through audio, which has been really helpful because that really does kind of narrow the field down for us. But one, shows your best work in the minimum amount of time as possible. From an audio standpoint, implementation is hugely important. And I guess it could be for art as well, because an art asset or an audio asset can be high poly, or in my instance, great resolution, really nice high quality audio, but if you can't implement it, it's crap. Bad implementation makes good audio sound bad, but good implementation can make okay audio sound really good. So if there are ways to show how you know how to implement audio into some kind of middleware like Equalizer and F1, like I said, they're free, you can download them. Show that. I would actually rather see you build a system in Wise than design an actual sound system.
By the way, haven't had a general demo for years and haven't sent them out. Whenever I approach a company, I find a company that I want to work for, and I do a specific demo for them. And that to me has worked better than, here's like 5 of my random tracks.
That applies to art too, I think.
Yeah, I would, like, find the companies you want to work with, like, if you like doing, sci-fi games, you're not gonna go, like, try out for Skyrim or, something like that. Just find the games that you want to work on, and it's, give them a specific job.
Do companies require you to know WIs or FMOD?
More so than yes, they do. Most studios nowadays, I can't think of any that don't have some kind of middleware, whether it be Miles, there's the onboard tools of 360 called gatekeepers. But most companies really use some kind of middleware. And if you practice one, you can learn another. Like I started out on FMOD. So when I got hired at Volition, I hadn't really seen the Ys yet. But knowing how FMOD worked, I was able to pick up the Y system relatively quickly. So by knowing one gives you, so like if I saw somebody that had some FMOD stuff, I'd say, well, you know what, they could probably pick up Ys, no problem. I like what they did. This is some good stuff. But I would say I would err on the side of yes. I mean, most postings will reference something where they want you to have some knowledge or experience of, but I would err on learning it because whether the place you start at uses it, guaranteed the next place you're going to go to is going to.
That does bring up an interesting point, and we'll get to your question in 1 second. It does bring up an interesting point because I think that can actually be applied to both programming and art as well, because you have, you'll often see on job requirements, 3D Max or Maya experience, or Unreal Engine or Unity or Crytek or something like that. And yeah, it is true. I think that we use the Unreal Engine at Hi-Rez, and so if you really know that stuff, I think that does give you a little bit of an edge. But at least in my opinion, I don't know if these guys would agree. Like, don't get too hung up on that. Like, don't feel like you have to learn every little thing. And same thing with artistry. Like I'd much prefer you really look under the hood and really explore Max or Maya than trying to figure out, because at that point it's syntax versus semantics to kind of borrow learning code. And from a coding perspective, it's you have so many programming languages. Yeah, a lot of games are written in C, C++, so in C#, that kind of thing. But like, I've never written a program in C#, and hopefully that doesn't mean that would hold me back. But at the same time, it does give you an edge a little bit if you're a perfect fit for a company. But don't get too caught up in that, and make sure that you learn one of these technologies just really well. I would say. I think I was going to go good. Yeah, you.
Hey guys, my name is Adrian with the Rickwood Game Development Club down at Georgia Southern University. I hope my question isn't too vague, but I wanted to know how much did you need to know coming in as like an entry-level programmer or artist? How much did you need to know about the business aspects, like project deadlines and budgeting, and how did that help you effectively talk with like the suits of your company trying to do things all the time?
Really good question.
Okay, that's all our time.
First off, most of them don't have suits. Please, everybody, artist, coder, everybody, understand. It's about. You don't have to know how the business is run. What HR, legal, gibberish, crap, contracts. No, don't worry about that.
That's why you're a game developer.
Yeah. But for God's sake, the process. It is a business, not that way. Thank you. We do this because we love doing it, because it's good fun. It's a money side better than flipping burgers. But at the end of the day, we have to deliver product that sells, that makes money, so we can go on doing this. And that means, project management, production, understand how things are moving together, please, so that we know that when someone comes in through the door, they're not going to go, no, stop screwing around, you actually have to finish this. If it drives me mental. I mean, I do talks at a number of the colleges around here about getting into the games industry, and the teachers are doing the same thing. Saying, oh, would you like to talk about, you could talk about project management and production and how important that is to you. And I go, yes, please.
I teach my students Gantt charts so they can understand the concepts of deadlines when they can actually be done by.
It's, whether you're using Waterfall, Scrum, and Switch Agile, and all the rest of it, there are weekly deadlines, monthly deadlines, next year's deadlines, whatever it is, and understanding what you are committing to and the fact that it is run as a business, even if we're trying to have a lot of fun while we're doing it, it drives many of us completely mad. That people just do not grasp that. So yes, radically important. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to sit there and do an MBA in applied finance. Don't care. But at least understand what a group of developers has got to do, which means understanding production, about getting from a start point of a concept through whichever ways that people want to work, through to an end point, to a delivery, to QA, all of that stuff. I mean, please, just pay attention. I know it's really, really dull, but what you want to do is some creature modeling, and build yourself a new dragon. I know it's really boring, but for Christ's sake, pay attention to that, please.
When I first started, I would have very little knowledge of the project management side of things. And, but a lot of places, there are people in place to handle the high-level stuff. You get a project manager, a discipline manager. Some places do.
In a big enough studio.
In a big enough studio. Nevertheless, regardless, you really need to learn how to manage it on your own, like for yourself. Not somebody telling you, it's not like you get a syllabus that tells you when my sounds are due. We have a milestone, we have certain goals for that milestone. Here's what has to get done in this 3-month period. Now it's up to you to manage your time properly. So how do you go about learning that? I think through school and what you do there, I think you should develop at least the basic primary skills from it, hopefully.
I think it also, I think it also, it really depends on the kind of studio you're looking for too. Like if you go to something that's a little bigger, like EA, I'd imagine that would be a lot different than a place like our studio, like Hi-Rez. We're even though we're growing, we're still very much have the indie space.
We're fun to work with.
That was pretty bad. Yeah, just see us tomorrow night. But the difference I think is I think you'll generally hear that people, because I've got friends at EA, and I think generally you hear more kind of corporate kind of things from that. So at Hi-Rez we actually are looking for people who are more self-motivated, like that we can trust them with a system, and we don't have to have a management structure in order to make that work. Like if we have to have too many managers, then that's kind of not a fit for us. And so I think that'd be smart, kind of knowing, like get a feel for what your studio culture is and kind of what the hierarchy is for a place that you're applying for. And the other advice, and this hits on a lot of levels, but what really helped me was during grad school we actually had this ongoing process where it was a 2-year program, and the people that were senior to us would be the project leads on a year-long project, and then the people that were the freshmen, the new guys would come in and join one of these projects that they thought was cool, and then they would become the project leads the next year. It's kind of a cycle. And the most important thing, I think, was that you start a project and you finish it, and going through that pipeline of finishing something, like Alan was saying before, is very important. And you'll learn a lot of these kind of manager things, because you'll learn how to work with people, and you're going to be working with people, especially if you're not getting paid for it, you're going to be working with people that they don't deliver what they promise. And that's a good wake-up call, and that's a good place to learn those skills rather than trying to learn it on the job.
I just thought of something else that ran back, sorry. Which is one of the things I think that probably irritates potential employers more than anything else is we were being rude and unpleasant about the vast bulk of the student population. I think one of the biggest issues is the feeling from the dire resumes and applications we get that we owe the student population a living. No, we don't. You can go. We have a lot of fun doing what we do, and it has its shitty days too. It has its days when you want to go stick it in the mouth. But basically, what we do for a living is fun. You get up in the morning and you think, hey, I get to go do it and make games. That's a great feeling. But you have got to earn that, and you aren't going to earn it by sitting on your ass and not paying attention in class. And you have got to show us that you are worth it. I mean, I know it's probably a horrible way of saying it, but you've got to show us that you are worth joining the club. And that means putting all the pieces together.
One of the things I have as an instructor is I constantly have students, hey, can you get me a job? And I'll ask them something like this. Well, how do you work? Who do you want to work for? I don't care. I said, okay, how about Hi-Rez? Yeah, that sounds good. Name one game they did. Crickets. Tripwire. Crickets. So let me get this right. You want me to get you a job, but you don't know what you want, and you don't know anything about the company. So definitely research the company. You have to be passionate about the company, because if you're building something you don't want to build, you're just going to do crappy work. So that's one of the things that I try to tell my students. And to the point where now, I won't even tell my students, I won't refer them in, because I hear every day, can I get a job? Can I get a job? Can I get a job? I'm like, I don't do referrals anymore. Because I've already been bitten twice. I'm like, no, that's it. I'm not doing that anymore. Now, every now and then, I think in about a year, I'll have one student that I'll kind of stick my neck up just a little bit. And sure enough, all the ones I have stuck my neck up for the last 3 years have done well. But otherwise, yeah, you have to know that, and you have to understand managing your time. One of the things I tell my students at the beginning is I have them build a Gantt chart. I says, okay, let's break down your assets. What are you doing? Sound, models, particle effects, whatever. I'll say, how long is it going to take you? That's day 1. On day 2, I says, okay, you should have this stuff done. Well, I don't have this done. Why? Well, my girlfriend or boyfriend, okay, fine. Basically, you're going to waste the next 9 weeks. I'm not going to pay attention to you. Move on. Okay? You have to have, that's a commitment that you're doing. When you say you're going to build what was the last one? An aircraft carrier. And they're going to model an aircraft carrier for a game in 8 hours. I'm like, okay, good luck. And yeah, they haven't got the box done yet in 8 hours. I'm like, you got to learn how to manage your time and estimate your time properly. That's the biggest thing. And sticking to your deadlines. Because companies, as much fun as it is making games, we got to pay mortgage. We got to pay bills. So, who's next?
Yeah, I'll add to it. I was entry level not that long ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and to reinforce some of the points that were made, the first thing is, I was a sophomore when I knew I wanted to work at Hi-Rez, and I knew we were working on Global Agenda, and I knew that's where I wanted to work. So, I knew Mick in college a lot. Yeah. I was probably annoying.
You're asking me entry questions.
There was no documentation at the time, so I was constantly, every time I was like, Nick, we got to do my.
It worked because he stood out.
And I knew what I wanted to do, and I worked 16 hours a day every day for 3 years, and I never slept in college. It was like Monster Energy just came out, thank you, I need that to sustain myself. And it worked, and it paid off, and I interned there, and then I got in, and as soon as I got in, my attitude's always been since then, is that I treat my leads like it is my duty to take things off of their plate, whatever I can. If they're loaded up with like a huge task list, it's my job to take as much of that as I can and make their job easier, because in turn it makes the whole team's job easier if you all treat things that way. At least to me, that's how I feel.
Who's next?
Yes.
My name is Kevin Menace-Pennings. I'm a freelance editor and writer. And to give you just a brief sense of my background, I'm an amateur game designer, but I used to run the entire fiction program at a university press. I've written a novel, and I'm very interested in writing narrative and content for games. Now, what I don't understand is how to convey those skills to you guys.
I don't know. I have very limited experience with writers. Being an audio guy, we tend to work with writers a lot. Although, in my opinion, writing is a design discipline, but most people relate it to audio because you hear it. And it's usually audio's responsibility to get it in the game. But when it comes down to it, in my opinion, it's a design discipline. It works in parallel with the overall game design. So, having said that, with my limited work experience with writing, you know, I would reach out to game design things. It's like focus on your discipline as a game designer and not as a writer first. So hopefully that will open the door a bit and maybe get you a contact or two that could help you more along the way. Unfortunately, you know, we can't, but at least I can. I think if you were to follow the game design path, that might at least maybe open it.
It's not about that. It's uncomfortable. It's a horrible way to have to answer the question. I mean, I do a fair amount of writing. It's kind of what got me into this mess in the first place. There is no, we get people who apply on spec, and the problem is there is just no easy answer. I mean, everyone's kind of sort of wincing to ask that question because it's one of the disciplines that, except in a few instances within the gaming industry, is horribly overlooked. Most games writing is shoved in at the last minute because someone goes, shit, we need some dialogue. Do we need some characters first? Well, we've got this one we modeled and we've done the animation and it's in game. You know, who is it? I don't know. You know, the problem is that a lot of it is completely back. The visibility of real quality writing, building a backstory, so you can build characters, so you can build dialogue and all of that, is horribly mistreated in a lot of the games industry. Which means you're in a, frankly, a very different position. Pitching, you know, we get people pitching to us that, hey, I do this writing, either we've had, here's a story that you can turn into a game. Unfortunately, most gamers will think of the game mechanic and elements like that long before they think of story, which is a real age. Certainly not necessarily the right way of doing it. I think part of it is, I'll use the cop-out that is also good advice for a lot of people, which is there is a ton of mobs going around there, hundreds of thousands of them. There is an area where there are games being created, or mini bits of game, or add-ons to games being created, which have no story to them at all, no writing, whether that's story, characterization, and can use it, and will use it because it costs nothing, it's free. There is a way, and it is hard, there is a way to illustrate what you can. I actually have a post on my wall which is given to me by someone because it was part of it. It's a whole bunch of stuff important too, which is literally just bits of textures off, from the inside to get. Most people don't even know that stuff's there, even though they've played 400 hours in Warfare 2. Because the writing is of such stunning quality. And I keep it on my wall to remind me that A, I know somebody at Valve, and B, their writing, even at that stupidly low level, is so good. So there is the place for it, there is the need for it, but chiseling it away in is monstrously hard. And the only advice I can think of is go find mod teams who can benefit from using some really good writing, whether it's backstory, whether it's dialogue, whether it's characterization, whatever it means. And I know Wits because it's a brute. It's probably one of the hardest routes I can think of in the game, frankly. But pretty closely competing with I'm a concept artist.
Yeah, the last two games I worked on were very heavily focused on the story. In fact, the story was written before any of the games, and they were Wasteland 2 that I worked on, and Space Venture, which is a new, I believe some Space Quest is coming out whenever we get around to it. And with those games, there was a story design, and we actually wrote everything around it. So maybe I would suggest you pick up like a small engine, like Unity or something like that, something that has a dialogue engine, or I can give you one of the ones I wrote, and kind of just throw something together. Okay, that yes, you can make an interactive storytelling game. You can use Unity or don't use Flash, but so you can get an idea of what it is. You can start fleshing out all the little tangents that you need to go on. How do you bring a story all together? So, it's something like your own IP that you want to use for yourself. Say, hey, look, I wrote this, and maybe you want to tune it to a specific gaming company. Like what Rick was saying earlier, you wouldn't want to write a horror novel for someone who's doing a sci-fi unless it's like Dead Space. So.
All right, who's next? You're next, Evan.
Yeah, I'm sorry, nice to see you. As far as programmers' portfolios go, what do you like to see better? Unity games, UDK games, or games you made in C#, C++?
I'll start off this one. It's going to be different depending on where you go. You're going to find with programming, typically it's much more about the dreaded programming test, which I personally don't really like that metric. I mean, you kind of have to do it, but I don't know. Some are more hardcore than others. I don't know. It's the way that I got in, and I did start off more as a technical artist. My title was technical artist, even though it was really programming, and it just evolved into straight up programmer. Was I had a demo reel and almost like an artist would, but it showed technical solutions to things in both Maya and real-time applications. And so it showed an effect, and then it broke it down and showed how technically it was solved. And then that way, hopefully that my resume was good enough to get an interview, and then I could talk about those techniques and how they would apply to the studio that I was talking to, which was Hi-Rez. But I think sometimes you don't really have any kind of portfolio visual thing to show as a programmer sometimes. Sometimes it really just comes down to the interview and the programming test. It really depends on the company sometimes.
I'd say mods are really valuable too, especially, I don't think the game engine matters too much. The fact that you can show that you can take something that has some structure and apply programming principles to it, and show that you can manipulate the game engine into doing something different, or something that you came up with. So then you kind of have something to show, it's like, hey, I came up with these mechanics and implemented them into the game, here's how I did it, kind of thing.
Mods, mutators, any of that stuff. It's back to that point. Before you get to the programming test, you've got to get architecture. I did this model, this, the other. I did all this coding on this model here. I created this mutator, and if you're targeting particular companies, I created this mutator for killing floor. We'll go, oh, we know that.
I've heard that game.
Yeah, exactly. And you do stuff. I mean, if you can target people really specifically, go and do that. There's one of my other favorites is finish it. Debug it, finish it. Sick and tired of seeing coders send us, hey look, there's this game I wrote, and well, it's mostly finished. It works sometimes. Go away. I don't want to hear it. Finish stuff, please.
In order to finish something, you have to have correct scope. Obviously, don't outdo your scope. You're talking about the aircraft carrier.
Oh yeah.
Don't sit out to the model of an aircraft carrier 8 hours unless you really know what you're doing. And then you were next.
Hi guys, thanks for coming out. I'm John Ellis, a programmer student at SIEGE. And what I want to know was, what series of choices or things that you've done do you feel put you where you are today?
That's a really great question. That was actually, I wanted to finish, maybe we still will, but we probably all thought about this panel and things that we all wanted to convey, and that was actually one of the things that I wanted to convey. So I'll make this really quick from my perspective. For me, it's, earlier I was saying that, figure out what you're not good at, and then figure out what you are good at, and then really work hard at doing that. But the next part about it is when you look back, at least when I look back at all the things that I've done in my life that I'm proud of, or that's where it's gotten me where I am, and I like it, everything is very, or most things are very, very fragile. Like the way things happen, like Hi-Rez. Like I was in Atlanta for a dentist appointment, and I was surfing the internet and saw that this game company was going to start forming, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I was interested in it, and I emailed them, and on a whim I got an email back and talked with them. If I hadn't been there at that time, none of the rest would have happened. And so that's not to say, that's not to discourage you by saying, just weird things happen, but luck happens to everybody. Luck is out there, and opportunity presents itself a lot. The big thing that you need to take away is that hone in on your craft, practice your craft, so that when you do realize there's an opportunity to go, and sometimes it blindsides you. Sometimes it's laid out right in front of you. Sometimes you have to make choice A or choice B, and those are really obvious choices. But a lot of times it blindsides you and you don't know it's coming. And when you can act upon it on a moment's notice because you're that good, because you trained for that, everyone is going to have that opportunity in this room. And acting on that, and that luck factor, you're going to look back and say, I was lucky. Everyone up here, I don't know if they disagree, but I bet you everyone up here would say, when they look back, there was a lot of luck that went into it. And that's probably true for everyone in this room that's gotten to where they are today, that you like where you are. When you look back, it's the same thing.
I'll make the arrogant point. Luck is, and yours is a good example, is a very large part of that is about seeing the opportunity and jumping. You saw Hi-Rez was, was picking up. You actually did something about it, pitched it, and it worked. In my case, it's, I think my wife might wonder if it was luck or luck. I had about a 25-year serious career before I started doing this. And around the first medal of honor, I started getting involved in modding because I thought, I love this sort of game, but this was shit. I can do better. Yeah. I said I was arrogant. But I thought it could be something better at some point. And I ended up internet dating with random weird strangers to see if we could build something else, off the top of this. And it kind of spiraled from there into a great orchestra. There were some interesting decisions in amongst that, I'm doing quite bad on my level here, where we did the thinking about, it's all right, I don't mind spending 8-10 hours plus travel time a day doing my day job, and then another 8 hours a day doing my night job, which is Tripwire. My wife won't mind. You make some stupid decisions. But it's that point about seeing an opportunity, deciding you want it enough, to take the mad jump, take the mad risk, go balls out.
Well, luck has an absolute lot to do with it. For example, there was a Kickstarter for Wasteland 2. Now, my favorite game of all time is Bard's Tale, the 1985 version. Okay, I am a fanatic about that game. And I saw Brian Fargo was doing Wasteland 2, and I enjoyed Wasteland 1. Not as much as I enjoyed Bard's Tale, but it's kind of the same kind of game in some respects. And I'm like, wow, interplay. And they said on the little Kickstarter, Unity. I said, I know Unity. I'm a freaking doctor in Unity. I said, okay. So I found out who was doing the Kickstarter, and I wrote to them. I said, I can do anything in Unity. That's how I approached it. And I said, whatever, I worked on all these different titles. And he goes, okay, show me an inventory system. I said, give me 8 hours. In 8 hours, I give him an inventory system. He goes, okay, well, let's come over here and we're going to have a conversation. That's how I got started in design. So, and then I did that. That was absolutely a lot of fun. But I took the initiative. I said, look, I saw the Kickstarter. It was doing quite well. They're using Unity. I know I can do this. Go ahead and submit it. Talk to the guy. Completely like cold call. Okay. The other thing I would have to say to get into the game industry and part of here network. Go to these GGDA meetings and all these other meetings you have almost every Tuesday. And do me a favor, don't ask for a job. Really, we're not pimps, okay? Speak for yourself. Every time I go to, you know what we're doing this evening. Making me money. So, I'm kind of tired of, all I hear is, hey, you guys hiring? You even know what we do? No? Really, just, network. If you go to these meetings, you're going to meet the same people over and over and over again, and they're going to remember you. Okay? Make it a point. Like my last name is Simpson. So I said, yeah, it's just like Bart Nojic. People remember that. I have a little tagline for my name. Whether it's good or bad, whether I have yellow hair or not black hair. So I make sure there's some kind of catchphrase or something like that. And I get to know the company, I get to know the people. And I say, hey, can I come in for a demonstration? Or can I look at what you're doing behind the scenes? Yeah, sure, come on over. Start the network. Just don't ask for a job right off the bat.
I'm going to jump in really quick and just say we have 5 minutes left on our allotted time. So let's finish up the 5 on these. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Jumping on what he said is the network. I didn't really get serious with this until I started meeting with him. It took me a while. I was living in Southern California, and I found a group that meets once a month, where it's just all the game development in Southern California studios meet and talk and meet people and talk to people that are interested, and they will offer advice and help. But the best decision I ever made was to never stop applying. Now I know you've heard a lot here where it's do you have a job? Can you get me a job? Granted, that is if you are unprepared and you have bad skill set, you have bad attitude, you have bad work ethic. If you are good at what you do, if you're proud of what you do, and if you're confident in what you do, and you can show that, do not hesitate to apply for jobs that are posted. And you just continue to apply. You see a posting and it's asking for a mid to senior level, and you're not. Apply. A lot of times companies will put that tag on there to just kind of filter out the crap. And 9 times out of 10 it does that. But every once in a while you find a diamond in the rough who's a newer guy. He has a little bit of experience just working on things on his own, modding, whatever. And he's got some talent. She's got some talent. And then that might get you from, that might maybe get your phone in. But if I had stopped applying after the first 10 rejections, I'd still be waiting tables. Yeah, and you'll probably have some shitty jobs where you're trying to find one. But don't stop applying to jobs. I got mine. Good. It's stereo.
So I had a lot. I slept with a lot of people. I went after what I wanted, and I took it.
That's how I got into Hi-Rez.
So not so much.
No.
So seriously, what these guys are saying is completely true. Believe it or not, I'm actually really, really introverted. I don't really like people, and the people that actually know me know that I'd rather be off doing my own thing than hang out and trying to find work. But unfortunately, as a freelancer, which allows me to work by myself, I have to go out and meet these people to convince them to give me jobs. So, so I eventually approached it to networking. I just despise the idea of having to do that. So I approached it to how I would go to date people. It was never let me go find a job. It was always let me just go meet people, and not that I was good at dating either, but just approaching people just to get to know them as people, rather than people that can do something for me. And that made the biggest difference in the world. The second thing is, don't think you're going to do it overnight either. Again, I started in '99. I didn't really feel like I was in the industry until 2007, 2008. And even now, I'm not where I want to be in my career. And it took me, you know, like, I've known the Tripwire guys forever. It took me probably 5 years to even get on their radar, but now I'm finally doing stuff for them. And so the idea is, like, I think a lot of people are like, let me get this job, especially like composers. They're like the laziest, like, people that like, they're the people that come up and say, like, do you have a job? Here's my demo. Like, check out my stuff, it's better than yours. Which it's not. It's not better than anybody's. Like, everybody's demos are pretty much the same. But it's the other stuff. It's the how well can you get along with people. How much money do you have to buy drinks? Prepare to implement music. Can you do that? So there's other things that you can sell yourself with.
One more minute.
Oh,
Matt, go.
All right, the original question was, what was the biggest turning point for us to start our career, right? Yeah, something like that. All right, for me, I think it started when I was 14. I played Shenmue 2, and I was completely blown away by the story, the music, everything. And at the same time, I was playing Jedi Academy, which is on the Quake 3 engine, and I immediately just started doing Radiant tutorials like non-stop. And just made maps. I probably made like a map every month. And was just like doing as much as I could and self-taught myself. Went through college at SCAD. And there was some luck involved, like I said before. But I also sort of believe that luck is sort of a fallacy and a point. If you're well prepared and you work hard, people take notice. I mean, I had a lot of professors stick their neck out for me, and you probably would get in trouble if the school knew like what they did to help me get my job. But they saw something, and I don't say that out of arrogance. I try to be as humble as I can. I think everyone should be too. We should be confident at the same time. That people, the harder you work and you're confident and you're assertive, people pick up on that and they notice, like, hey, this guy isn't trying to, he's not like all over me for a job. He's just like, will you please just give me a little bit of help or give me your feedback. Like, be open to feedback more so than, oh, what can you give me? It's more of, be very grateful for any professional ever to take their time to look at your stuff.
All right. Okay, so I know there's probably more questions, and I've been a pretty bad moderator in terms of I haven't moved it along enough, but I know we're going to be here, at least, I know Matt and I are going to be here tomorrow. All these guys are going to be around the convention for the rest of the weekend. We come down to these events to talk to you guys and to find new talent and to help you guys out. I mean, that's why we're up here doing this. So please take this opportunity, continue this conversation. We could talk forever about this, and I'm sure you'll have a lot more questions. So, not just us, but everyone that's in that professional thing at these parties and everything you go to, just don't be afraid to just talk to the companies and get your name out there and just talk about it, and just don't be weird. Be cool. So yeah, if you take away anything from this talk, don't be weird. I don't know what I'm talking about. No, be weird because we're all weird. I don't know. At this point, it's gotten weird. So speak for yourself, Mick. So that'll wrap it up. But find anybody in Smash Order or